Okay, next question is from Matthew. I don't know who here is aware that no matter what type we are, we have to use all 8 cognitive functions in some way or another. Well, here goes for the INFJs. Here, even though you prefer outward-facing feeling over inward-facing feeling, there are times when it will come up, and I'm wondering what it looks like for you when it happens. This is a great question, Matthew. Thank you for asking that question. So I've had a really interesting relationship with inward-facing feeling. So the ethicist in the roundtable model. I'm an INFJ, and as Matthew was saying, Clifford, can you stop licking yourself, please? Thank you. Good boy. So when, as Matthew was saying, we all do have the 8 functions in some ways. We do have the 8 functions, but we have 4. Here's Clifford. We have 4 that are our main functions, and then we have another 4, which are what we call our shadow functions. And so with the 4 main functions, so for INFJs, of course, it is your adult self is inward-facing intuition. Our inner parent is outward-facing feeling. Our 10-year-old inner child is inward-facing thinking. And our 3-year-old inner child is outward-facing sensing. So the shadow side of those 4 functions for INFJs are shadow adult self, outward-facing intuition, shadow inner parent, inward-facing feeling, shadow 10-year-old, outward-facing thinking, and shadow 3-year-old, inward-facing sensing. And just to mention the same for INFPs, our INFPs here. So your adult self on the light side is inward-facing feeling, which makes your shadow adult self outward-facing feeling. Your light or your main inner parent is outward-facing intuition, which makes your shadow inner parent inward-facing intuition. Your inner 10-year-old on the light is your inward-facing sensing, which makes your shadow 10-year-old outward-facing sensing. And your inner 3-year-old on the light is outward-facing thinking, which makes your shadow 3-year-old inward-facing thinking. So I hope now that we've established those things that that I can now answer the question. So it is my shadow inner parent as an INFJ that is inward-facing feeling. And what is my own personal experience, and this was something I fought for a really long time because of how I've identified with myself as an outward-facing feeler. I, for a really long time, didn't set boundaries very well. So I had really flexible boundaries with other people. And it wasn't until I really started to go into my shadow inner parent that I started to truly put myself first. So truly say, does this feel authentic to me? And if it doesn't, I'll just call it. So instead of doing the outward facing feeling space, which if something doesn't feel right for me, I just kind of let it go or come up with a reason why they might be like that or whatever is going on. Whereas with the inward facing feeling, my experience was that once I harnessed that, I went, you know what? This is what's happening. This is how it affects me. And I'm calling it here. So that's what it's like when it happens for me. So when that comes up for me in its most strongest form. The other way that the inward facing feeling shadow inner parent comes up for me is just making decisions about my career or my lifestyle, like how I want my days to look, and just take everybody else out of the equation until I'm clear on what I want. And then I introduce other people into it. So it's very self-focused within me. the inward facing feeling. But I mean, all the inward facing functions are self-focused. They're subjective, and they have to be, because you have to have both yourself as the subjective and then yourself in relation to everything else, which is the outward facing. That's why we all have 2 inward and 2 outward facing functions in ourselves. So for me, that's how it came up. And I'm curious to hear how it's come up for other people. And because this is something that I really love about our INFPs. This is something I love about my partner Peter, who's an INFP, about people that I've worked with that are INFPs, and there are hundreds and hundreds of people, thousands of people actually that I've worked with who are INFPs. And something that I really love about them is how clear they are internally about their authentic, the authentic version of who they are, even if they have a challenge in translating it to the outside world. If you sit with an INFP long enough, or if if you just stay present with them long enough, you will see, or you will sense that amazing, come here, Sambo, you will sense that amazing authentic part, like who they are, who they really are in the core of their core. And having that kind of clarity for as like a role model, something to aspire to as an INFJ, is just so amazing. It's just absolutely so amazing. I feel humbled in that presence, because I've never had that, and I've had to learn that as I've been doing my shadow work. So I'd love to hear. We have a big resource here with our INFP friends as INFJs that can show us what it could look like. So how to prioritize yourself and your own feelings and your own emotions, and how to truly just live from that authentic core. So there's a lot for us INFJs there to learn. And so I'd love to hear from both INFJs and INFPs who are tuning into this video. How do you tap into that inward facing feeling? So if you're an INFP, then it's obviously your adult self. If you're an INFJ, then it's your shadow inner parent. So I'd love to hear from you too. All right. Thanks for that question, Matthew. Awesome question. And looking forward to hearing everyone's responses on that.